9, 10, I have 12. Halfway across the globe and we're standing on new ground. Screaming across the waves, you can't hear a sound. There's no fair trials, no train, no liberties, no tea. We've colonized America, we won't stand for tyranny. It's too late to apologize. It's too late. I said it's too late to apologize. It's too late. You've paid your foolish tax, read the acts, and they just won't do. Wanna make it clear we believe this much is true. All men were created with certain unalienable rights. Among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's too late to apologize. It's too late. It's too late to apologize. It's too late.
Too late to apologize, yeah. Woo!
Across the globe and we're standing on new ground.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Good to be with you today. Good to be with you. Let me, whoop. Oh, no. We don't want that. Let me switch over here to this. There we go. So hopefully that worked. But I'm glad you're all here. Glad you're all with me today. I am about to get into some reading. Revolutionary reading, of course, with the Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. So I'm going to turn the music back on. Hold on a moment. Okay. So, last we left off. Oh, it's a little warm. I might turn the AC on, but for now, we'll be okay. Actually, I want to... Doesn't look right. Let me, there we go. That's better. So last we left off, we were, we left off on plan for attaining moral perfection. So last we left, we had just finished Benjamin Franklin, public service. Yeah, he developed a library, and he was proud that he developed the library, and then he added an addendum about how he built the library and how the library was a very important part of his life. So, good to know. Thank you, Benjamin. We appreciate it. The whole idea of a library, public access, that was kind of his thing. Subscription service. Basically having a library card, right? So, a little loud. I don't know, you guys tell me if you can hear that. But I'm turning it down just a bit. Turning the capture up a touch. There we go. So, we are in chapter 9 for Plan for Attaining Moral Perfection. And it seems like this is going to be a shorter chapter, so we'll go from there. But in the meantime, let's just get rolling. I've got my coffee here. Hope you all have your coffee. Nice morning iced coffee. Good stuff. All right. Chapter 9, Plan for Attaining Moral Perfection. I'm trying to remember my Benjamin Franklin voice here. 'Twas about this time I conceived the bold and arduous project of arriving at moral perfection. I wished to live without committing any fault at any time. I would conquer all that either natural inclination, custom, or company might lead me into. As I knew, or as I thought I knew, what was right and wrong, I did not see why I might not always do the one and avoid the other. But I soon found I had undertaken a task of more difficulty than I had imagined. While my care was employed in guarding against one fault, I was often surprised by another. Habit took the advantage of inattention. Inclination was sometimes too strong for reason. Take my headphones off, so I think I've got the volume decent. I concluded at length that the mere speculative conviction that it was our interest to be completely virtuous was not sufficient to prevent our slipping, and that the contrary habits must be broken, and good ones acquired and established, before we can have any dependence on a steady, uniform rectitude of conduct. For this purpose I therefore contrived the following method. In the various enumerations of moral virtues I had met with in my reading, I found the catalogue more or less numerous, as different writers included more or fewer ideas under the same name. Temperance, for example, was by some confined to eating and drinking, while by others it was extended to mean the moderating every other pleasure, appetite, inclination, or passion, bodily or mental, even to our avarice and ambition. I proposed to myself, for the sake of clearness, to use rather more names with fewer ideas annexed to each than a few names with more ideas. And I included under 13 names of virtues all that time occurred to me as necessary or desirable, and annexed to each a short precept, which fully expressed the extent I gave to its meaning. These names of virtues, with their precepts, were 1. Temperance. Eat not to dullness, drink not to elevation. It's a good one. It's a good one. Silence. Speak not but what may benefit others or yourself. Speak not but what may benefit others or yourself. Avoid trifling conversation. Avoid gossip. I see. Silent. Temperate. Order. Number 3. Let all things have their places. Let each part of your business have its time. Resolution. 4. Resolve to perform what you ought. Perform without fail what you resolve. 5. Frugality. Make no expense but to do good to others or yourself, i.e., waste nothing. An example. 6. Industry. Lose no time. Be always employed in something useful. Cut off all unnecessary actions. Use no sincerity. Use no hurtful deceit. Think innocently and justly. And if you speak, speak accordingly. 8. Justice. Wrong none by doing injuries, or omitting the benefits that are your duty. 9. Moderation. Avoid extremes. Forbear resenting injuries so much as you think they deserve. 10. Cleanliness. Tolerate no uncleanliness in body, clothes, or habitation. 11. Tranquility. Be not disturbed at trifles, or at accidents common or unavoidable. That's a good one. So just having peace. So I'm gonna just read through these and then kind of go back and maybe summary. So chastity. Rarely use venery, but for health or offspring. Never to dullness, weakness, or the injury of your own or another's peace or reputation. Well, Mr. Frank. Well. Is that what you learned at the end of all of your time? Humility. Imitate Jesus and Socrates. That's pretty good. Pretty good one to leave off on. Not bad. Not bad there. Yes. Well. There we are. There we are. So let's go back and just take a quick look-see here. So, first is temperance. Temperance. So temperance being the idea, of not going too far in either extreme. So, not to dullness or drink to elevation. So, yes. So do not drink to raise yourself, and do not eat not to dullness. So don't eat till you can feel nothing, and don't drink till you are higher than a kite. Easy enough, right? Easy enough. Let's see. Moving on. Of course, we have silence. So speak not, but what may benefit others or yourself. Avoid trifling conversation. Okay. So avoid gossip. Avoid things that are unnecessary when you're in conversation, when you're talking with others. Makes sense. 3. Order. Let all things have their places. Let each part of your business have its time. So, not to confuse pleasure and business. I think that's what that means. To not kind of mix those two things. things have their places. So where business is where business stays. Where pleasure is where pleasure stays. And so on and so forth. I agree with that. Good. Resolution. Resolve to perform what you ought. Perform without fail what you resolve. So when you set out to do something, make sure that you continue to do it. Do not just go at it half-heartedly. Make sure you are going at it all the way until it is fully achieved for yourself. That makes sense to me. Frugality. Make no expense but to do good to others or yourself. Waste nothing. This one's... So frugal, being frugal is obviously not overspending or spending too much. So make no expense but to do good for your others. So if you do spend only to do good for others or for yourself. Don't spend, and I think he means like to take that really into account, really think about it. Not to just spend because you have money. I think that's what that means, which is another good one, yeah. Industry. Lose no time. Be always employed in something useful. Cut off all unnecessary actions. So basically, don't let your hands be dull. Always be learning something, trying to make yourself a better life. Whenever you can, as quickly as possible, or as best you can as possible. I think that's a good one. It's a decent one there. Be always employed in something useful. Cut off all necessary actions. Yeah, so don't do things that are unnecessary. Don't do things that are just wasting time. Seven, sincerity. Use no hurtful deceit. Think innocently and justly. And if you speak, speak accordingly. So, no hurtful deceit, so do not slander. Think innocently and justly. When you are speaking, try to speak as innocently as possible, and with as much sincerity as possible. And if you do speak, speak accordingly. So speak in a sincere manner, not in a way that is wasteful of breath. I agree with that. Justice. Wrong none by doing injuries, or omitting the benefits that are your duty. So responsibility is obviously very important for justice. By having responsibility, we are all just beings. So it is important that we keep an idea of justice within us. Yes, definitely agree. And must do no injuries to others as well. Moderation. Avoid extremes. Forbear resenting injuries so much as you think they deserve. Moderation. So this is just kind of goes into temperance, I would guess. This is kind of reiterating temperance. The first one that we saw, but avoiding extremes, yes. So don't be completely abstinent, and don't be a lecher, obviously, and don't drink to excess, and don't drink not at all. You know, it's moderation. Being human is about being in the middle point, in the small section that is the middle. It's very hard to maintain, as it is, as it's supposed to be. 10. Cleanliness. Tolerate no uncleanliness in body, clothes, or habitation. So if your house is dirty, clean your room. Make your bed. It's Jordan Peterson speaking here. Make your bed. Clean your house. Have no dirtiness. It makes sense, though. I mean, having a clean environment is how you shape your own mind. So, that is that, for sure. Tranquility. Number 11. Be not disturbed at trifles or at accidents common or unavoidable. So when things do happen to you, do not be disturbed by them. Just take them in stride. When events happen in your life that are hurtful and set you back, it's very hard, obviously. It's not an easy task. It's easier said than done. But the thing to do is to just take it all in stride and accept it and move on and not wallow in your self-pity or in the pity of others, and to use it to your advantage and to not be disturbed, because the more you are disturbed, the more your balance is thrown off in moderation, and the more tranquility you have, the more moderation you can achieve. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, yes. So if you get in an accident, if you get in a small car accident, your car bumper is damaged, maybe, as long as your health is good, there's no reason to fret if you have, insurance and things like that. I'm throwing out a random example, but if you fall and scrape your knee, then no reason to just like, why did I do that? It's just about maintaining, like, okay, I did that. Maybe I wasn't paying attention that one time. I'll just pay attention again next time. Just pay more attention. Simple enough. Easy enough. 12. Chastity. Chastity. Rarely use venery, but for health or offspring. I believe venery is sex, but I could be wrong. Let me just check. Yeah. Sexual indulgence, of course. So do not use that for health or offspring, or use it only for health and offspring. Don't to dullness, not to weakness, or to injury of your other, or your own, or another peace or reputation. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, do not be using sex as an escape mechanism, which certainly Benjamin Franklin could definitely speak on. He was a man that certainly used it quite a bit, I would say. And 13, humility. Imitate Jesus and Socrates. Both good figures to pay attention to and to imitate. Makes sense as well. But let's see here. Let's see. All right, so my intention being to acquire the habitude of all these virtues. I judged it wouldn't be well not to distract my attention by attempting the whole at once, but to fix it on one of them at a time. And when I should be master of that, then to proceed to another, and so on, till I should have gone through the 13, and as the previous acquisition of some might facilitate the acquisition of certain others, I arrange them with that view as they stand above. Temperance first, as it tends to procure that coolness and clearness of head which is so necessary where constant vigilance was to be kept up, and guard maintained against the unremitting attraction of ancient habits, and the force of perpetual temptations. My attention... I've gone through the 13, and as the previous acquisition, facilitate the acquisition of certain others. So you arrange them the way they are for a reason, not just out of randomness. Temperance first, as it tends to procure the coolness and clearness of head which is so necessary for constant vigilance to be kept. So, if Benjamin Franklin were alive today, how many American citizens do you think he would say are adhering to temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, or humility? How many? How many do you think? How many Americans? Could he point at any single one and be like, yes, you are following all 13 of those. Excellent. Well done, sir. No. The answer is no. Let's just examine these in societal importance. So temperance. Okay, well, there's plenty of this going around in the United States. Definitely not many people are in this camp when it comes to anything. Silence. What is TikTok? What is social media to a large degree? This. It is all this. So, failing on that front, failing on that one. Okay, let's see what we got next. Order. Let all things have their places. Let each part of your business have its time. Yeah, I think we do, well, now today more than ever, mix our business and pleasure and work with, of course, DC is all about that. Like, it's just going to parties and you drink, but you're also there to meet people, so your work is mixed with your pleasure, and it's like, it's just a weird amalgamation of nothingness. Okay, so next. Resolution. Resolve to what you perform ought. A lot of people start things and do not finish them. But I think that's still a human condition. That's not really exclusive to today's era. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. But I feel like that's still just something that's just hard to overcome regardless. Frugality. Make no expense to do good to others or yourself. Waste nothing. Well, definitely a lot of waste. Government waste. Waste in our household sold to us by corporations and companies that want us to continue to buy things just to keep the economy going for no purpose other than to keep it going. So really, not much. Not much in the way of frugality going on that one for the American citizen. Next, industry. Lose no time. Always be employed in something useful. Cut off unnecessary action. Again, I say, what is social media? What is TikTok? What is any of the things that we spend a majority of our time on trying to just use to occupy our time? Yeah, I think we are not very industrious today. It's a bunch of waste. It's a bunch of nothing jobs, like middlemen, middle class managers, and jobs that could be done by a machine. Only employed because that's how you keep the economy going. 7. Sincerity. Use no hurtful deceit. Think innocently and justly, and if you speak, speak accordingly. Well, a lot of, still, that goes back to gossip again. Certainly a lot of insincere people on the internet. Of course, that goes to the fact that nothing they say actually has of any consequence to what they say. Because we've done away with the idea of honor, as honor is a barbaric value of humankind, I guess. And the idea that we could just say whatever we want and have no consequence for it. See, the whole idea of the American system, I think, was partially backed up with the idea of a duel. With the idea of, like, if you are to challenge me, I will defend my honor because I'm not going to take your lying and you need to put your money where your mouth is. But we don't do that today. No one puts their money where their mouth is. It's just random speakings on the internet of nothing at all. Justice. Wrong none by doing injuries or omitting the benefits that are your duty. Well, we don't believe in duty today. There's no duty at all in the United States, beyond maybe that of the police or the military. Certainly American citizens don't know the idea of duty. Maybe the duty to vote, but does that even, like, benefit? I mean, when we see the system the way it is today, I can't see how this is how that's a duty, actually. Doing injuries. I mean, most people strive not to do injuries to others, but maybe one's we still have that value of, like, try not to hurt people. But that's still on the decline. Still on the decline. As far as, like, F you, I've got mine, you know, I'm gonna take mine from you, and I don't care if you get hurt by it, I'm gonna get it from you, and if you get in the way, well, that's just how it goes. So, yeah, justice? Nah. Moderation. Avoid extremes. Forbear resenting injuries as much as they deserve. Well, definitely we are in the extremes on political opinions. Certainly, and I would say that this is, yeah, we are definitely not moderates in any sense of the word or anything that we do today in the United States as American citizens. Cleanliness. Tolerate no uncleanliness in body, clothes, or habitation. This one might still be somewhat applicable. I think most people, I mean, that's pretty basic. I mean, but, you know, we do have the epidemic of young men not cleaning their rooms and making their beds. So, I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. So, cleanliness. Tolerate no uncleanliness, body, clothes, or habitation. I don't know about that. I think it's kind of middle of the road there. 11. Tranquility. Be not disturbed at trifle. Trifles of, let's see. Accidents are common and unavoidable. Well, I think we do let life just kind of, but that's again, it's not really something that's just left to, it's not just left to the people, you know, the Americans. I think that's most people, they just let life get to them. But we've certainly been getting less and less of being able to be less disturbed by trifles. So, I don't know. I mean, we do look at every little news headline and be like, that applies to my life, and I need to, you know, make it part of my personality. So maybe less. Chastity. Well, this one's definitely not. Nope. What is Hinge? What is Tinder? What is dating apps today? Basically used as a means of sex, obtaining sex, and using that for yourself. It's not, and self-validation. Many of the parties that decide to use it, it's not an actual thing for seeking partnership or relationship. It's used as a tool of obtaining self-validation and pleasure, which this one we definitely fail on. We have failed on that one. There's no coming back on that one. Humility, imitate Jesus and Socrates. Well, yeah, I don't think anybody has gotten that one down. So, out of all these, I think we are 1, 2, 1 and 2 out of 13 that we are like on. Otherwise, not really doing anything on that. So, you know. All right. Well, thank you, Benjamin, for the wonderful words. But it is just not, I guess. No. Oh, I see. See what I did there. It's doubling over. Should turn that off. Okay. Why is this here anyway? I need to fix that. All right, remove. Audio mixer here. No, I don't want that. Turn. Okay. 0. 19. That's. And this to 0. Okay. There we go. There we go. All right. I see my music was doubling over, and that's probably not great. All right. Let's see here. Turning that down just a touch. Temperance first, as it tends to procure the coolness and clearness of head, which is so necessary where constant vigilance was to be kept, and guard maintained against the unremitting attraction of ancient habits and the force of perpetual temptations. Yes, see, that's the thing. Like, daily life is temptation. So, to strive to be any of those values that he had above, yeah, you definitely need temperance. That makes sense. This being acquired and established, since would be more easy, and my desire being to gain knowledge at the same time that I improved in virtue, and considering that in conversation it was obtained rather by use of the ears, and then of the tongue, therefore wishing to break a habit, I was getting into a prattling, punning, and joking, which only made me acceptable to trifling company. I gave silence the second place. This and the next order I expected would allow me to more time for attending to my project and my studies. Resolution, once became habitual, would keep me firm in my endeavors to obtain all subsequent virtues. Frugality and industry freeing me from my remaining debt and producing affluence and independence would make more easy the practice of sincerity and justice. Conceiving, then, that agreeably to the advice of Pythagoras in his golden verses, daily examination would be necessary. I contrived the following method for conducting that examination. I made a little book, in which I allotted a page for each of the virtues. I ruled each page with red ink, so as to have 7 columns, one for each day of the week, marking each column with the letter for that day. I crossed these columns with 13 red lines, marking the beginnings of each line with the first letter of one of the virtues, on which line and its proper column I might mark, by a little black spot, every fault I found upon examination to have been committed respecting that virtue upon that day. Temperance. Eat not to dullness, drink not to elevation. So he has it. Temperance. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And these are temperance, silence, order. These are all of the virtues. Yes. Yes. I believe. So, this is how well he kept up with it. So, he strove for, let's see. He got 3 on Sunday, 3 on a Monday, 3 on a Tuesday, 1 on a Wednesday, silence, 2 on a Thursday, 3 on a Friday, and 1 on a Sunday. So not, terrible, I guess, if we're considering ourselves on those terms. But it seems not to go any of these, which is interesting. I determined to give a week's strict attention to each of these virtues successively. Thus, in the first week, my great guard was to avoid every the least offense against temperance, leaving the other virtues to their ordinary chance, only making every evening the faults of the day. Thus, if in the first week I could keep my first line marked T, clear of spots, I suppose the habit of that virtue so much strengthened, and its opposite weakened, that I might venture extending my attention to include the next for the following week, keep both lines clear of spots, proceeding thus to the last. I could go through a course complete in 13 weeks and 4 courses in a year, and like him who, having a garden to weed, does not attempt to eradicate all the bad herbs at once, which would exceed his reach and his strength, but works on one of the beds at a time, and, having accomplished the first, proceeded to a second. So I should have, I hoped, the encouraging pleasure of seeing on my pages the progress I made in virtue. By clearing successively my lines of their spots, till the end, by a number of courses I should be happy in viewing a clean book, after 13 weeks' daily examination. This, my little book, had for its motto these lines from Addison's Cato. Here will I hold, if there's a power above us, and that there is, all nature's cries aloud, through all her works. He must delight in virtue, and that which he delights in must be happy. Another from Cicero. O vitae philosophia du, o virtuam indactre, expultare victrum. Unus deus bene et expetres tuis actus, pectue immortalite est interpretantis. Alright, what does that say? O philosophy, guide of life, O searcher out of virtue and exterminator of vice, one day spent well in accordance with the precepts is worthy of an immortality of sin. Tusculan Inquiries, Book 5. There you are. Another from the Proverbs of Solomon, speaking of wisdom of virtue. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor. Her ways are lays of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. And conceiving God to be the fountain of wisdom, I thought it right and necessary to solicit his assistance for obtaining it. To this end I formed the following little prayer, which was prefixed to my tables of examination for daily use. O powerful goodness, bountiful Father, merciful guide, increase in me that wisdom which discovers my truest interest. Strengthen my resolutions to perform what that wisdom dictates. Accept my kind offices to thy other children as the only return in my power for thy continual favors to me. I used also sometimes a little prayer which I took from Thomson's poems, vis-a-vis, Father of light and life, thou good supreme. O teach me what is good, Teach me thyself, save me from folly, vanity, and vice, from every low pursuit, and fill my soul with knowledge, conscious peace, and virtue pure, sacred, substantial, never fading bliss. The precept of order, requiring that every part of my business should have its allotted time. One page in my little book contained the following scheme of employment for the 24 hours of a natural day. The morning. Question. What good shall I do this day? Rise, wash, and address powerful goodness. Contrive day's business, and take the resolution of the day. Prosecute the present study and breakfast. This sounds like meditation a bit to me, but work. So these are the hours. 5, 6 to 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, work. 12 and 1, read and overlook my accounts and dine. 2 to 5, work. Yes. Evening. What good have I done today? Put things in their places. Supper, music, or diversion, or conversation. Examination of the day. Night. Sleep. 10 to 4. I entered upon execution of this plan of self-examination and continued it with occasional intermissions for some time. I was surprised to find myself so much fuller of faults than I had imagined, but I had the satisfaction of seeing them diminish, to avoid the trouble of renewing now and then my little book, which by the scraping out the marks on the paper of old faults to make room for new ones in a new course, became full of holes. I transferred my tables and precepts to the ivory leaves of a memorandum book, on which the lines were drawn with red ink, that made a durable stain, and on those lines I marked my faults with a black lead pencil, which marks I could easily wipe out with a wet sponge. After a while I went through one course only in a year, and afterward only one in several years, till at length I omitted them entirely, being employed in voyages and business abroad, with a multiplicity of affairs that interfered, but I always carried my little book with me. My scheme of order gave me the most trouble. Professor McMaster tells us when Franklin was an American agent in France, his lack of business order was a source of annoyance to his colleagues and friends. Strangers who came to see him were amazed to behold papers of the greatest importance scattered in the most careless ways all over the table and floor. I found that, though it might be practicable where a man's business was such as to leave him the disposition of his time, a journeyman printer, for instance, it was not possible to be exactly observed by a master who must mix with the world and often receive people of business at their own hours. Order, too, with regard to places for things, papers, I found extremely difficult to acquire. I had not been so early accustomed to it, and having an exceeding good memory, I was not so sensible of the inconvenience attending want of method. This article therefore cost me so much painful attention, and my faults in it vexed me so much, and I made so little progress in amendment, and had such frequent relapses, that I was almost ready to give up the attempt, and content myself with a faulty character in that respect. Like the man who, in buying an axe of a smith, my neighbor desired to have the whole of its surface as bright as the edge. That's quite some words there. The smith consented to grind it bright for him, if he would turn the wheel. He turned, while the smith pressed the broad face of the axe and heavily on the stone, which made the turning of it very fatiguing. The man came every now and then from the wheel to see how the work went on, and at length would take his axe as it was, without farther grinding. No, said the smith, turn on. We shall have it bright and by, as yet. It is only speckled. Yes, says the man, but I think I like a speckled axe best. And I believe this may have been the case with many, who, having for want of some such means as I employed, where did I go? Found the difficulty of obtaining good and breaking bad habits in other points of vice and virtue, having given up the struggle and concluded that a speckled axe was best, for something that pretends to be reason was every now and then suggesting to me such extreme nicety as I exacted of myself might be a kind of foppery in morals, which, if it were known, would make me ridiculous, that a perfect character might be attended with the inconvenience of being envied and hated, and that a benevolent man should allow a few faults in himself to keep his friends in countenance. In truth, I found myself incorrigible with respect to order, and now I am grown old and my memory bad, and I feel very sensibly the want of it. But on the whole, though I never arrived at that perfection I had been so ambitious of obtaining, but fell far short of it, yet I was by the endeavor a better and a happier man than I otherwise should have been, if I had not attempted it. As those who aim at perfect writing by imitating the engraved copies, though they never reach the wished-for excellence of those copies, their hand is mended by the endeavor, and is tolerable when it continues fair and legible. See, so here he describes, even though he failed in the attempt at trying to obtain order, even though he failed at the whole idea, still he found himself the better for it. Because he endeavored to do so. So that's the thing. The striving is really the important thing. The striving of trying to obtain order, even though it may be out of reach, is, for Benjamin Franklin, was the most important thing. So in striving for order, you achieve more order, right? Even if you fail at it. But the thing is, today, we don't even strive for order. So going back, looking at it, order. Little things have their places. Let each part of your business have its time. And we do have quite the time of confusing and getting all these things mixed up oftentimes. But it doesn't mean that it's not worth attempting or trying to push yourself in that direction. It may be well, my posterity should be informed that to this little artifice, with the blessings of God, their ancestor owed the constant felicity of his life down to his 79th year, in which this is written. What reverses may attend the remainder is in the hand of Providence, but if they arrive, the reflection on past happiness enjoyed ought to help his bearing with them with more resignation. To temperance he ascribes his long-continued health, and what is still left to him of a good constitution, to industry and frugality, the early easiness of his circumstances, and acquisition of his fortune, with all that knowledge that enabled him to be a useful citizen, obtained for him some degree of reputation among the learned, to sincerity and justice, the confidence of his country, and the honorable employs it conferred upon him, and to the joint influence of the whole mass of the virtues. Even in the imperfect state he was able to acquire them, all that evenness of temper, and the cheerfulness in conversation, which makes his company still sought for and agreeable even to his younger acquaintance. I hope, therefore, that some of my descendants may follow the example and reap the benefit. It will be remarked that, though my scheme was not wholly without religion, there was in it no mark of any of the distinguishing tenets of any particular sect. I had purposely avoided them, for being fully persuaded of the utility and excellency of my method, and that it might be serviceable to people in all religions, and intending some time or other to publish it, I would not have anything in it that should prejudice anyone of any sect against it. I purposed writing a little comment on each virtue, in which I would have shown the advantage of possessing it, and the mischiefs attending its opposite vice, and I should have called my book The Art of Virtue, because it would have shown the means and manner of obtaining virtue, which would have distinguished it from a mere exhortation to be good, that does not instruct and indicates the means, but is like the apostle's man of verbal charity, who only without showing to the naked and hungry how or where they might get clothes or victuals, exhorted them to be fed and clothed. Nothing is so likely to make a man's fortune as virtue. In this piece, it was my design to explain and enforce this doctrine. That's interesting. Wait, I was gonna make nothing so likely to make a man's fortune as virtue. So virtuous people tend to be more fortunate, or have more fortunes, or more. I'm not sure that means bank, like money in your bank account, although it could be. But I would say more fortunate meaning a better life, more of a fulfilled life to be happy and satisfied with. Excuse me. But it so happened that my intention of writing and publishing this comment was never fulfilled. I did indeed from time to time put down short hints of the sentiments, reasonings to be made use of it, some of which I have still but the necessary close attention to private business in the earlier part of my life, and public business since, have occasioned my postponing it. For it being connected in my mind was a great and extensive project that required the whole man to execute, which a unforeseen succession of employs prevented my attending to, it was hitherto remained unfinished. In this piece, it was my design to explain and enforce this doctrine, that vicious actions are not hurtful because they are forbidden, but forbidden because they are hurtful. The nature of man alone considered, that it was therefore everyone's interest to be virtuous who wished to be happy. It was therefore everyone's interest to be virtuous who wished to be happy. Even in this world. See? The pursuit of happiness. What would that be? That's not the pursuit of pursuing your desires untamed. That's the pursuit of virtue. Virtue is what makes us happy. When they wrote the Declaration of Independence, the pursuit of happiness was not like, go indulge yourself, eat till you are sick, drink until you want to throw up. That was not the idea of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. And the Constitution wasn't meant for people that indulged in such fantasies. It was meant for people that lived a virtuous life. And you see, by these words here, he believed in the same. It wasn't just drink until you die. YOLO. That wasn't the happy life. The happy life was living one in accordance with virtue, with value. Something we have forgotten. And certainly do not go with much today. And as should from this circumstance, there always being in the world a number of rich merchants, nobility, states, and princes, who have need of honest instruments for management of their affairs, and such being so rare. It is rare to find a virtuous person. Rare to find a virtuous person. So all the better that we should strive to be more virtuous, because that would make it more valuable. If we all strive to be more virtuous, it becomes a less rare quality, and we are all the better off for it. Have endeavored to convince young persons that no qualities were so likely to make a poor man's fortune as those of probity and integrity. See, he's here saying that, hold on, I want to see what probity, okay, all right, just to, the quality of having strong moral principles, honesty, and decency. See? Probity and integrity. So that makes a poor man's fortune. By working within those value sets. My list of virtues contained at first but 12, but a Quaker friend, having kindly informed me that I was generally thought proud, that my pride showed itself frequently in conversation, that I was not content with being in the right when discussing my point, but was overbearing and rather insolent, of which he convinced me by mentioning several instances, I determined endeavoring to cure myself, if I could, of this vice or folly among the rest. And I added humility to my list, giving an extensive meaning of the word. So he only came up with 12, and then Quaker friend was like, perhaps you should put humility on there, since you just like to talk about yourself so much, Franklin. That's great. That's very good. I like that. It's like, okay, I guess you're right. I suppose I should try to imitate Jesus and Socrates more. I'm probably going to fail at that, but I'll try. I cannot boast of much success in acquiring the reality of this virtue, but I had a good deal of regard to the appearance of it. I made it a rule to forbear all direct contradiction to the sentiments of others, and all positive assertion of my own. I even forbid myself agreeably to the old laws of our junto. That was his society of intelligent minds that got together. There. Hold on a moment. Second. Whew. All right. I'm back. Sorry, had to do that. Let's see. Continuing on. I cannot boast of the reality of success of this virtue, but I had a good deal of regard to the appearance of it. I made it a rule to forbear all direct contradiction to the sentiments of others, and all positive assertion of my own. I even forbid myself agreeably to the old laws of our junto, and use of our every word or expression in the language that imported or fixed opinion, such as certainly, undoubtedly, and I adopted instead of them. I conceive, I apprehend, or I imagine a thing to be so, or it so appears to me at present. When another asserted something that I thought an error, I denied myself the pleasure of contradicting him abruptly, and of showing immediately some absurdity in his proposition, and in answering, I began by observing that in certain cases or circumstances his opinion would be right, but in the present case there appeared or seemed to me some difference. I soon found the advantage of this change in my manner. The conversations I engaged in went on more pleasantly. The modest way in which I proposed my opinions procured them as readier reception and less contradiction. I had less mortification when I was found to be in the wrong, and I more easily prevailed with others to give up their mistakes and join with me when I happened to be in the right. Think about that. Think about that. Which value is he talking of here? Modest way of opinion. Success. Humility? Is this going back to humility? Yes, okay. So this is all talking about humility. I imagine a thing must be so, or appears to be at present. When another asserted something I thought an error, I denied myself the pleasure of contradicting him abruptly. So by doing this on sometimes, this is, what is to be more or less helpful to understanding and looking at the ideas of people and understanding and knowing those values of yourself. So, yeah. Oh, hello. Long-time viewer here. Katie, welcome. Good to see you. So this is my morning setup. I'm reading. I do some reading in the mornings. And right now I am reading the Autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. So I am on chapter 9, Benjamin Franklin. So I'm reading. We're just reading, and I'm just going over reading and going over what he's kind of talking about, as far as values and stuff. Yeah. Well, no. I mean, sure. I mean, my target audience, I'm trying to get more. I mean, in the mornings I do more reading, and in the afternoons I'm trying to do more games. Is the plan. Is the thing I'm trying to go for. But that's kind of my whole idea. Yeah. A mega thing? MAGA thing? No. just more like a spiritual, like, it's just examining like old works. Like I just like old revolutionary. The other thing I've been reading is the Law of One, which is like a spiritual, like, kind of like a thing. So it's more like that. So it's like supposedly like someone reading and looking at channeling the god of Ra, which is very interesting. Benjamin Franklin? I don't think he actually owned any. I could be wrong, but was he a rapist slave owner? I mean, I don't think so. I think everyone that he was with was pretty consensual. I could be wrong on that, but I don't have the ideas in front of me. But as far as like what I'm looking at here, it doesn't seem that way. I mean, definitely. I mean, Thomas Jefferson definitely owned slaves. George Washington owned slaves. Hamilton did not, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, I think you're thinking of Jefferson. You're talking about with Sally Hemings? Yeah. Different guy. Yeah, I don't think it was Benjamin Franklin that did that. Two-thirds of a... Yeah, fairly sure. Okay, maybe he did. He might have. I mean, most of the people back then did have slaves. You're probably right. It's not that it's, but as far as raping, I'm not sure of that. He was a man from Boston. He wasn't a guy that was like with the South. He wasn't a Southerner for sure. He moved to Philadelphia later. Yeah, well, of course. I mean, it was for sure, but did he have slaves? I mean, let's find out. Why not? Sure. Let's find out. Free white servants and several enslaved servants of African descent. So several. That doesn't sound like a plantation of slaves. But yeah. Another enslaved manservant. Deborah Franklin. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I thought he would definitely. Yeah, I mean, he was not a. I mean, he was a lecher. He did like to sleep with women, so there is that, for sure. I'm not doubting that at all. But as far as I know, every one of those was very consensual. Unless there's some evidence to the contrary. He was loved by women in France and in the Americas. And yes, he did become... Let's see. So... Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly right. Everyone wanted a piece of Franklin. Man about town. Classic dad bod. Yes, exactly. Exactly correct. That is absolutely true. But yeah, I mean, as far as like Benjamin Franklin views on slavery. Yeah, when did he become? Condemned the practice of slavery in his private correspondence. Quaker pamphlets against slavery. So He was an abolitionist. I mean, he did eventually go against it, which is admirable. But we stand Ben Franklin here, okay? We stand Ben Franklin. Does he have a monument? He doesn't have a monument. He does have a he has a place in Philadelphia. I mean, his house, his former house is still in Philadelphia. Well, it's not there. He has the shadow of his house. And he's buried in Philadelphia. Are the monuments just presidents? No, there's only, I mean, okay, I'll tell you this, because I'm a tour guide. But, so the monument, the Washington Monument, is the only monument in D.C. Monuments are built for people that are alive. So that's the reason for that. Yes. So when the monument was built, it was because he was alive. We have more memorials than we do monuments. And the reason we have memorials is because memorials are built after the fact. That's why there's the Lincoln Memorial, there's the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, there's the Korean War Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial. Yes. So that's why if someone says, like, this is a monumental occasion, they're like, that is a big deal because you are doing something while you're doing a giant event for someone while they are still living. Something I always try and say on my tours, but kind of goes over people's heads sometimes. But yeah. But that's the reason. That's the reason. But thank you, 2/3. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for commenting. And yeah, but that is the reason why the difference between monuments and memorials. There's a couple of Civil War monuments that are around the country, because there was still fighting going on, and the people that were alive from the Civil War were still alive. But a lot more memorials than there are monuments. So, yeah. So that's that. But yeah. So basically, you know, I think it's what, Katie? Hold on. I should probably bring up I don't know if I have my chat. If I can bring it up. Yeah. Make presentations? You think I should? Huh. Okay. You think that would be more engaging? Digestible. Oh, I don't want that. Turn that off. Okay. Well, if you think so as a viewer, if it would be more digestible, then perhaps that's what I should do. I mean, if it's definitely, I mean, certainly, if that is, would totally be easier to follow. Okay. All right. Perhaps I could just, I don't know, bring up both or something. I could have the presentation and I can just hide it and put, like, if I want to go over a giant paragraph or something for a certain presentation. But yeah, I could do that. You like the raw text presentation would be easier to follow. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I can certainly get some stuff like that together. Well, thank you, Katie, and I appreciate you sticking through. I know this isn't what I normally do, so you know, if you were to unsubscribe, I would totally understand if that was something that you really didn't care about. But yeah. But this is what I'm trying to do because I'm a tour guide and I love history and I like talking about history and I want to share it with people, and you know, this is what I like to do. So, and I like reading, and I like reading in my different accents and my different voices. So, you know, That's what I'm about. That's what I'm all about. Costumes? Costumes. You think I should dress up? Would that be more fun? That would be fun, actually. Incorporate costumes. Okay. Okay. That would be fun, actually. I would not mind that. That would be good. I would like that. I could get a George Washington. I could find a Benjamin Franklin one. Oh, I gotta get some. I gotta get my hair. Get a wig. Get like a powdered wig. Get a red coat. But those Revolutionary War costumes, man, those are expensive. I tell you, those are. I've been to like some of those reenactments, and man, they tell me those costumes. Some of them are like upwards of $1,000 for the really good ones. But it's not, it's not impossible. I guess I could probably just get like a one from like Amazon or something. I know I've seen those for like maybe $100 or something. But yeah. For the really good ones. And then there's like the custom buttons, the cloth, all of that. But then you'd want to see the whole costume. So I'd have to get more of like a camera like setup for I'd have to be standing and reading or presenting or something. Which I'm not opposed to. I guess I could do that too, but But yeah. These are all good ideas. I should write these down. Where's my little pull up my word processor so I can put these in for suggestions. I'm trying to improve the stream. So if you guys as viewers if you're trying to get more out of this, then that'll help, and I will see what I can do. Stream presentation format. Is the music good, by the way? Is it too loud, too quiet? I don't know. I've been trying to come up and figure that out. Presentation format. You don't hear music? Ah, okay. Quiet. Okay. How about that? Is that too loud? I'm trying to find where the sweet spot is. Presentation format, costume. Because my mic is good, right? The mic is good. You can hear that. Like everything I'm saying. Okay. All right. Okay. Mic is good. Good. Excellent. Good stuff. Yeah. All right. Awesome. So, okay. Presentation format and costumes. And if there's more, I will definitely come back to that. But yeah, I've been doing this for about, 3-4 weeks now. Just trying to get this, because you see regular streaming mornings, Tuesdays, and Friday or Saturday. So that's when I'm trying to do it. That's when I'm trying to get my schedule on those days. And then I have guerrilla streams in between, and I kind of want to go back to Resident Evil 4, which I was doing. So I might do that. Okay. So where did we leave off? But those are good. Yeah, actually, it did get a little more flexible. They're actually talking about putting me as a assistant manager, so that's good. Like I said, I think I told you I left my library job where I was working in the library all day, and now I'm I'm tour company, and they're talking about making me the night shift manager. So I'm pretty good with that. No? Oh, okay. Yeah. I know it's been a minute since I've seen you, Katie. I figured, you were probably only on during the nights, so. I am definitely way happier. I feel happier. My blood pressure is down. I've been checking it. I like the mornings I get to use for myself. I don't feel nearly as stressed. I'm out in the sun, which helps me feel healthier. So yeah, I am feeling a lot better, to be honest. I was gonna try. I had my yeah. Where is anyway. So yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing much better. I'm feeling a lot better about life and everything in general. So, but yes, so I'm let's see. We're gonna continue on. Where did we go? So we gotta get through this chapter. Gotta get through the chapter. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions or anything. So if you just joined, yeah, we were just talking about all of his. So these are the virtues that he thought were important: temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, humility. So, decent, I guess. And then the Quaker told him, hey, you only put 12 there. Maybe you should be a little more humble. You should be more humble. And he was like, okay, fine. I'll do that. So where did I leave off? Yeah. So this is all about humility. Okay. Appeared or seemed to me the difference. I found the advantage of this change in my manner of the conversation I engaged in went more pleasantly. The modest way in which I proposed my opinions procured them a readier reception and less contradiction. I had less mortification when I found to be in the wrong, and I more easily prevailed with others to give up their mistakes and join with me when I happened to be in the right. So he's talking about, yeah, just like when you're in the wrong, just say you're in the wrong, and more people will join with you when you're in the right, rather than just denying every single time. Just interesting. This is good. And this mode, which I first put on with some violence to natural inclination, became at length so easy and so habitual to me, that perhaps for these 50 years past no one had ever heard a dogmatic expression escape me. And to this habit, after my character of integrity, I think it principally owing that I had early so much weight with my fellow citizens when I proposed new institutions, or alterations in the old, and so much influence in public councils when I became a member. For I was but a bad speaker, never eloquent, subject to much hesitation in my choice of words, hardly correct in language, and yet I generally carried my points. In reality, there is, perhaps, no one of our natural passions so hard to subdue as pride. Disguise it, struggle with it, beat it down, stifle it, mortify it as much as one pleases. It is still alive, and will, every now and then, peep out and show itself. That is true. Very true. You will see it, perhaps, often in the history, for even if I could conceive that I had completely overcome it, I should probably be proud of my humility. So here he's basically saying, even if I had completely overcome being proud, I would be proud how humble I was. That's kind of funny. So, I am now about to write at home August 1788. Cannot help but have expected my papers, many of them lost in the war. I have, however, found the following. Marginal minority. Having mentioned a great and extensive project which I conceived, it seems proper that some account should be here given of the project and its object. Its first rise in my mind appears in the following little paper, accidentally preserved vis-a-vis Observations on My Reading History, in Library, May 19, 1731. That the great affairs of the world, the wars, revolutions, are carried on and affected by parties. That the views of these parties in their present general interest, or what they take to be such. That the different views of the different parties occasion all confusion. That while a party is carrying on general design, each man has particular private interest in view. That as soon as the party has gained its general point, each member becomes intent upon its particular interest, which, thwarting others, breaks that party into divisions, and occasions more confusion. That few in public affairs act from a mere view of the good of their country, whatever they may pretend, and though their actings bring real good to their country, yet men primarily considered that their own and their country's interest was united, and did not act from principle or of benevolence. that fewer still in public affairs act with a view to the good of mankind. There seems to me at present to be great occasion for raising an united party of virtue by forming the virtuous and good men of all nations into a regular body to be governed by suitable good and wise rulers, which good and wise men may probably be more unanimous in their obedience to the common people or as common law. I at present think that whoever attempts at this all right is well qualified, cannot fail of pleasing God and meeting with success. Benjamin Franklin. Resolving this project in my mind to be undertaken hereafter, and when the circumstances... How much is left? Okay. Should afford me the necessary leisure, I put down from time to time on pieces of paper such thoughts as occurred to me respecting it. Most of these are lost, but I find one purporting to be of substance to an intended creed, containing, as I thought, the essentials of every known religion, and being free of everything that might shock the professors of any religion, is expressed in these words, vis-a-vis, that there is one God who made all things, that he governs the world by his providence, that he ought to be worshipped by adoration, prayer, and thanksgiving, and that the most acceptable service of God is doing good to man, that the soul of is immortal, and that God is certainly reward virtue and punish vice, either here or hereafter. My ideas at that time that the sect should be begun and spread at first among young and single men only. Oh, come on, Ben. It's for everybody. Come on. That each person is to be initiated should not only declare his assent to such creed, but should have exercised himself with 13 weeks examination and practice of the virtues, as in the before-mentioned model, that the existence of such a society should be kept a secret till it was become considerable to prevent solicitations for the admission of improper persons. But that the members should each of them search among his acquaintance for ingenious, well-disposed youths, to whom with prudent caution the scheme should be gradually communicated, that the members should engage to afford their advice, assistance, and support to each other in promoting one another's interests, business, and advancement in life, that for distinction we should be called the society of the free and easy, free as being by the general practice and habit of virtues, free from the dominion of vice, and particularly by the practice of industry and frugality, free from debt, which exposes a man to confinement and a species of slavery to his creditors. That was a lot to read there, but I suppose he's saying, okay, so all these ideas can be accessible to people after this amount of stuff has become common practice, I suppose, what he's saying. This is as much as I can now recollect of the project, except that I communicated it in part of two young men who adopted it with some enthusiasm, but my then narrow circumstance and then necessity, I was under the sticking of close to my business, occasioned my postponing the further prosecution of it at that time, and my multifarious occupations. When I see words I don't know, I have to look them. Never heard of this word before. Many and of various types, having many varied parts or aspects. Okay, all right. Very good, very good. Public and private. Introduce me to continue postponing so that it might be omitted till I have no longer strength or activity left sufficient for such an enterprise, though I am still of opinion that it was a practicable scheme, and it might have been very useful by forming a great number of good citizens. I was not discouraged by the seeming magnitude of the undertaking, as I have always thought that one man of tolerable abilities may work great changes and accomplish great affairs among mankind, if he first forms a good plan in cutting off all amusements or other employments that would divert his attention, makes the execution of that same plan his sole study and purpose and business. And thus ends Chapter 9. Here's where he talks about Poor Richard's Almanac. So this is where he gets into putting these values and virtues inside of his book, which I have. Here, I'm going to go get it, because I like that book a lot. I'll be right back. Haha! I found it. Here it is. Poor Richard's Almanac. I'm pretty sure that's available online too. It's just a bunch of like things that are like how to live your life. Like here, I'll just pick one at random. Ready? Let's see. This one is what is the subject? Professions and occupation. "'Tis easier to prevent bad habits than to break them." Here you go. Well, there's one. "Ceremony is not civility, but nor civility ceremony." There's a small one. "Dally not with other folks' women or money." There's a good one. "Keep flax from fire, youth from gaming." What? Benjamin Franklin. We gotta be gaming out here. Hold on. "Let thy discontents be secrets." So if you're upset with something, let it be a secret. And many more inside of this. I could read the whole thing, but it's just great to have on hand. If you just want to like retort to someone. I know. No, he's not a gamer. That's like, that's I don't know about that. Youth from gaming. I wonder what he's meaning here. Because I'm sure, I mean, obviously, didn't have video games back in the 1700s, but maybe like gambling? Flax from fire. It must have something to do with flax and fire and how that can spread, I would imagine. But still, not a gamer. Discard. Out of here. No more. No more Benjamin Franklin. We're done. Done with you. Nah, just kidding. Alright. So I figure we'll get through maybe one more chapter. And we'll probably call it there. We got, let's see. 1, 2. Yeah, that's enough. I think we can get through that. And then we'll be done. I'm aiming for like 2 chapters. 2 chapters a stream, which is pretty good. And the reason I'm reading it like verbatim is because it's obviously it's public domain, so you can't claim 1700s. It's not. Nope. People can publish it, but it's public domain. So, all right. So chapter 10, Poor Richard's Almanac and Other Activities. In 1732. I published my almanac under the name of Richard Saunders. It was continued by me about 25 years, commonly called Poor Richard's Almanac. I endeavored to make it both entertaining and useful, and it accordingly came to be in such demand that I reaped considerable profit from it, vending annually near 10,000. And observing that it was generally read, scarce with any neighborhood in the province being without it, I considered it as proper vehicle for conveying instruction among the common people, who bought scarcely any other books. I therefore filled all the little spaces that occurred between the remarkable days in the calendar with proverbial sentences, chiefly such as inculcated industry and frugality, as the means of procuring wealth and thereby securing virtue. It being more difficult for a man in want to act always honestly, as to use here one of those proverbs, it is hard for an empty sack to stand upright. Those proverbs, which contain the wisdom of many ages and nations, I assembled and formed into a connected discourse prefixed to the Almanac of 1757, as the harangue of a wise old man to the people attending an auction, the bringing all these scattered counsels thus into a focus enabled them to make greater impression. The piece, being universally approved, was copied in all the newspapers of the continent, reprinted in Britain on a broadside to be the stuck up in houses. 2 translations were made of it in French, and great numbers bought by the clergy and gentry to distribute gratis among their poor parishioners and tenants. In Pennsylvania, as it discouraged useless expense in foreign superfluities. Some thought it had its share of influence in producing the growing plenty of money, which was observable for several years after its publication. 2 pages from Poor Richard's Almanac, 1736. Oh, we can, okay. Things are bitter, so bitterer than gall. Physicians' fey are always visible. And women's tongues, if into powder beaten, may in potion or pill be eaten. Okay. Interesting. Well, there you go. There's a section. I considered my newspaper also as another means of communicating instruction, and in that view frequently reprinted in extracts from The Spectator and other moral writers, and sometimes published little pieces of my own, which had been first composed for reading in Argento. Of these are a Socratic dialogue, tending to prove that whatever might be his parts and abilities, a vicious man could not properly be called a man of sense, and a discourse of self-denial, showing that virtue was not secure till its practice became a habitude, and was free from the opposition of contrary inclinations. These may be found in the papers about the beginning of 1735. In the conduct of my newspaper, I carefully excluded all libeling and personal abuse, which is of late years become so disgraceful to our country. Whenever I was solicited to insert anything of that kind, and the writers pleaded, as they generally did, the liberty of the press, and that a newspaper was like a stagecoach, in which anyone who would pay had a right to a place, my answer was that I would print the piece separately, if desired, and the author might have as many copies as he pleased to distribute himself, and that I would not take upon me to spread the detraction, and that, having contracted with my subscribers to furnish them with what might be either useful or entertaining, I could not fill the papers with private altercation, in which they had no concern, without doing them manifest injustice. Now many of our printers make no scruple or gratifying the malice of individuals by false accusations of the fairest characters among ourselves, augmenting animosity even to the producing of duels, and are, moreover, so indiscreet as to print scurrilous reflections on the government of neighboring states, and even on the conduct of our best national allies, which may be attended with the most pernicious consequences. These things I mention as a caution to young printers, and that they may be encouraged not to pollute their presses and disgrace their profession by such infamous practices, but refuse steadily, as they may see by my example, that such a course of conduct will not on the whole be injurious to their interests. In 1733, I sent one of my journeymen to Charleston, South Carolina, where a printer was wanting. I furnished him with press and letters, on an agreement of partnership, by which I was to receive 1/3 of the profits of the business. Paying 1/3 of the expense, he was a man of learning, and honest, but ignorant in matters of account, and though he sometimes made me remittances, I could get no account from him, nor any satisfactory state of our partnership while he lived. On his decease, the business was continued by his widow, who, being born and bred in Holland, where as I have been informed, the knowledge of accounts makes a part of female education, she not only sent me as clear a state as she could find of the transactions past, but continued to account with the greatest regularity and exactness every quarter afterwards, and managed the business with such success that she not only brought up reputably a family of children, but at the expiration of the term was able to purchase of me the printing house and establish her son in it. I mention this affair chiefly for the sake of recommending that branch of education for our young females, as likely to be more use of them and their children in case of widowhood than either music or dancing, by preserving them from losses by imposition of crafty men, and enabling them to continue, perhaps, a profitable mercantile house with established correspondence, till a son is grown up fit to undertake and go on with it, to the lasting advantage and enriching of the family. At about the year 1734, there arrived among us from Ireland a young Presbyterian preacher named Hemphill, who delivered with a good voice, and apparently extempore, most excellent discourses. All right. A little bit more coffee. A little bit more coffee. Not much, but a little bit more. Who delivered a good voice extempore, most excellent discourses, which drew together considerable numbers of different persuasions, who join in admiring him and them. Among the rest, I became one of his constant hearers, his sermons pleasing me, as they had little of the dogmatical kind, but inculcated strongly the practice of virtue, or what in the religious style are called good works. Those, however, of our congregation who considered themselves as Orthodox Presbyterians disproved his doctrine, and were joined by most of the old clergy, who arraigned him of heterodoxy before the synod, in order to have them silenced. Hold on a moment. I am going to just start this over. Disproved his doctrine and were joined by the most old clergy who arraigned him or the heterodoxy before the synod. In other to have him silenced, I became a zealous partisan and contributed all I could to raise a party in his favor. And we combated for him a while, with some hopes of success. There was much scribbling pro and con upon the occasion, and finding that though an elegant preacher, he was but a poor writer, I lent him my pen and wrote for him 2 or 3 pamphlets, and one piece in the Gazette of April 1735. Those pamphlets, as is generally the case, was controversial writings, though eagerly read at the time, were soon out of vogue, and I question whether a single copy of them now exists. List of books. Oh, okay. During the contest, an unlucky occurrence hurt his cause exceedingly. One of our adversaries, having heard him preach a sermon that was much admired, thought he had somewhere read the sermon before, or at least a part of it. Or on search, he found that part quoted at length in one of the British reviews from a discourse of Dr. Foster's. This detection gave many of our party disgust, who accordingly abandoned his cause, and occasioned more speedy discomfiture in the synod. Synod, is that synagogue? Is that... synod. Must find what synod. Assembly of Clergy, Lati, a diocese. Ah, okay, of a church. I stuck by him, however, as I rather approved his giving us good sermons, composed by others, than bad ones of his own manufacture. Though the latter was the practice of our common teachers, he afterward acknowledged to me that none of those he preached were his own, adding that his memory was such as enabled him to retain and repeat any sermon after one reading only. On our defeat, he left us in search elsewhere of better fortune. I quitted the congregation, never joining it after, though I continued many years after my subscription for the support of its ministers. I had begun in 1733 to study languages. This is still 50 years prior to the American Revolution, so we're still 50 years prior here. I soon made myself so much a master of the French as to be able to read the books with ease. I then undertook the Italian. An acquaintance who was also learning it used often to tempt me to play chess with him. Finding this took up too much time as I had for study, I at length refused to play any more, unless on this condition, that the victor in every game should have a right to impose a task either in parts of the grammar, to be got by heart, or in translations, etc., which task the vanquished was to perform upon honor. Before our next meeting, as we played pretty equally, we thus beat one another into that language. I afterwards, with little painstaking, acquired as much of the Spanish as to read their books also. I have already mentioned that I had only 1 year's instruction in the Latin school, and that when very young, after which I neglected that language entirely. But when I had attained an acquaintance with the French, Italian, and Spanish, I was surprised to find on looking over a Latin Testament that I understood so much more of that language than I had imagined, and which encouraged me to apply myself again to the study of it. Study of it. Where did I go? Yes. Encouraged to apply the study of it. And I met with more success as those preceding languages had greatly smoothed my way. From those circumstances, I have thought that there was some inconsistency in our common mode of teaching languages. We are told that it is proper to begin with the Latin, and having acquired that, it will be more easy to attain those modern languages which are derived from it. Yet, we do not begin with the Greek in order more easily to acquire Latin. It is true that if you can clamber and get to the top of the staircase without using the steps, you will more easily gain them in descending. But certainly, if you begin with the lowest, you will with more ease ascend to the top, and I would therefore offer it the consideration of those who would superintend the education of our youth. Whether, since many of those who begin with the Latin quit the same after spending some years without having made any great proficiency, and what they might have learnt becomes most useless, so that their time has been lost. It would not have been better to have begun with the French proceeding to the Italian. After spending the same time, they should quit the study of languages and never arrive at the Latin. They would, however, have acquired another tongue or two, that being in the modern use might be serviceable to them in the common life. After 10 years' absence from Boston, having become easy in my circumstance, I made a journey thither. Love that word. Thither. To visit my relations, which I could not sooner well afford. In returning, I called at Newport to see my brothers, then settled there was his printing house. Our former differences were forgotten, and our meeting was very cordial and affectionate. He was fast declining in his health, and then requested to me that, in case of his death, which he apprehended not far distant, I would take home his son, but then 10 years of age, and bring him up to printing business. I accordingly performed, sending him a few years to school before I took him into the office. His mother carried on the business till he was grown up, when I assisted him in the assortment of new types, those of his father being in a manner worn out. Thus it was that I made my brother ample amends for the service I had deprived him of by leaving so early. In 1736, I lost one of my sons. Ah, poor Benji. A fine boy of 4 years old, by the smallpox, taken in the common way. I long regretted bitterly, and still regret, that I had not given it to him by inoculation. This, I mention for the sake of parents who omit that operation on the supposition that they should never forgive themselves if a child died under it. Well, we know where his opinion on vaccines stands. My example showing that the regret may be the same either way, and that therefore the safer should be chosen. There you are. Our club, the Junto, was found so useful and afforded such satisfaction to the members that several were desirous of introducing their friends, which could not well be done without exceeding what we had settled as a convenient number, vis-a-vis 12. We had from the beginning made it a rule to keep our institutions a secret, which was pretty well observed. The intention was to avoid applications of improper persons for admittance, some of whom, perhaps, we might find it difficult to refuse. I was one of those who were against any addition to our number, but instead of it, made in writing a proposal that every member separately should endeavor to form a subordinate club, with the same rules respecting queries, and without informing them of the connection with the Junto. The advantages proposed were the improvements of so many young citizens by the use of our institutions, our better acquaintance with the general sentiments of the inhabitants of any occasion as the Junto members. And just so you know, Junto is a, if you don't know Junto, it's the meeting of minds, the Spanish word, meaning together. But in this context, it was like a meeting of people that were intellectuals and were talking about different things. So when he says Junto, that's what that means. As opposed to a junta, which is a military term, obviously, for coups, there, in mostly South American countries. Member might propose what queries we should desire, and was to report to the Junto what passed in his separate club, the promotion of our particular interests in business by more extensive recommendation, and the increase of our influence in public affairs, and our power of doing good by spreading through the several clubs and sentiments of the junto. The projects was approved, and every member undertook to form his club, and they did not all succeed. 5 or 6 only were completed, which were called by different names, as the Vine, the Union, the Band, etc. They were useful to themselves and afforded us a good deal of amusement, information, and instruction, besides answering, in some considerable degree, our views of influencing the public opinion on particular occasions, of which I shall give some instances in course of time as they happened. My first promotion was my being chosen, in 1736, clerk of the General Assembly. The choice was made that year without opposition. But the year following, when I was again proposed, the choice like that of members being annual, a new member made a long speech against me in order to favor some other candidate. I was, however, chosen, which was the more agreeable to me, as besides the pay for the immediate service as clerk, and gave me a better opportunity of keeping up an interest among the members, which secured me the business of printing, the votes, laws, paper money, and other occasional jobs for the public that, on the whole, were very profitable. I therefore did not like the opposition of this new member, who was a gentleman of fortune and education, with talents that were likely to give him in time great influence in the house, which, indeed, afterwards happened. I did not, however, aim at gaining his favor by paying any servile respect to him, but after some time took this other method, having heard that he had in his library a certain very scarce and curious book. I wrote a note to him, expressing my desire of pursuing that book, and requesting he would do me the favor of lending it to me for a few days. He sent it immediately, and I returned it in about a week with another note, expressing strongly my sense of the favor. When we next met in the house, he spoke to me, which he had never done before, and with great civility he ever after manifested a readiness to serve me on all occasions, so that we became good friends, and our friendship continued to his death. This is another instance of the truth of an old maxim I had learned, which says, "He that has once done you a kindness will be more ready to do you another than he whom you have yourself obliged." Now that's good words. So if you do someone a kindness, they are more ready to help you in turn. So obviously, the more kind that you are to someone, usually they're more willing to help you out as well. True. And it shows how much more profitable it is to prudently to remove than to resent, return, and continue inimical. What is this word? Inimical. I think I know what it is, but inimical. Tending to obstruct or harm. Okay. Unfriendly or hostile. Okay. So to be obstinate to whatever proceedings. In 1737, Colonel Spotswood, late governor of Virginia, and then Postmaster General, which, by the way, Benjamin Franklin would become the Postmaster General of the United States later, being dissatisfied, that's probably why I mentioned it, being dissatisfied with the conduct of his deputy at Philadelphia, respecting some negligence in rendering and inexactitude of his accounts, took from him the commission and offered it to me. I accepted it readily and found it of great advantage, for though the salary was small, it facilitated the correspondence that improved my newspaper, increased the number demanded, as well as the advertisements to be inserted, so that it came to afford me a considerable income. My old competitor's newspaper declined proportionately, and I was satisfied without retaliating his refusal, while postmaster, to permit my papers being carried by the writers. Thus, he suffered greatly from his neglect in due accounting, and I mention it as a lesson to those young men who may be employed in managing affairs for others. You like learning new words? Yes, I like learning new words too. That's part of the reason I enjoy reading these older texts, because they have these words and I'm just like, huh? We don't use these words anymore. What are these? And I just like to look up the meaning of them. So, I'm glad you do too. Two-thirds of us. Two-thirds lot. That's two-thirds lot. Yes. That's good. I like that name. Considerable income. Yes. My old competitor's newspaper declined proportionately, and I was satisfied without retaliating his refusal, while postmaster to permit my papers being carried by the writers. Thus he suffered greatly from his neglect in due accounting. I mention it as a lesson to those young men who may be employed in managing affairs for others, that they should always render accounts and make remittances with great clearness and punctuality. The character of observing such a conduct is the most powerful of all recommendations to new employments and increase of business. And there we have it. End of chapter 10. The Almanac at the time was a periodical, was a guide to the natural phenomenon and the weather. Right. Franklin took the title of Poor Robin, a famous English almanac, and the Richard Saunders, a well-known almanac publisher. Okay. And so the next chapter will be interest in public affairs. But, let's see, how long have I been? Yeah, about 2 hours. 2 hours and 6 minutes. So we're about at the tail end here, I think. This is a decent place to stop. I do have some other things I probably should get ready for. I need to check my phone, see if my boss needs me for something later tonight. So, let me check on that real quick. Alright, so we have nothing as of yet from him, so he usually will text me later in the evening, afternoon. But, from here, I guess we'll just, since we're done with reading this, we'll just switch over. Oh, that's really big. Wasn't... Okay. More like that. That's better. Okay. So, what do you guys think? You got any, any opinions? I especially liked that, I mean, those 13 original, or values I was trying to work towards. I thought those were interesting. So he tried to, like, keep himself to, like, a schedule or something like that. And I was like, So he tried, but obviously... Did I show you the chart of what he made to himself? I'll probably just show you. There. Real quick. So this is the chart that he made. You didn't see it before. So these are the values that he tried to pursue himself. But... as you can see, he didn't get very far in that. So, what can you do? What can you do as a human being? So, yeah, but I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching, and I hope you come back, obviously. Like I said, I do stream Tuesdays and Fridays, I think is more or less what it is, and then in between I have Gorilla streams. So let's see, I do what did I do? I'm doing Resident Evil right now, Resident Evil 4, the new one. So if you want to come and see that, just be on the lookout for that, obviously. And yeah, I'll try and maybe I can get myself a powdered wig. I mean, they're not a powdered wig, or just a wig, just a white, an old-timey wig. That might be fun, just to put that on and just read with it. That just make me feel a little more in the mode. Or just get the Benjamin Franklin wig, honestly. That could work too. It's a good idea. It's a good idea that you came up with there, Katie. Appreciate that. I'm gonna actually put a sub column on that. And yeah. That would be better to read all this with. So, okay, cool. And then I need to figure out how to get my chat back on the screen, because I know I wasn't reading it from, I had it popped out. It wasn't, like, on the actual screen. I like to have that there, interacting. It helps me out a little bit when I'm reading. But yeah. So, you guys, you enjoyed that? Feel free to tune in this Friday, and then look for my Gorilla streams in between, and we'll definitely be seeing y'all again soon for another reading. I don't know if I'll have a presentation ready for you, but yeah, if you guys, but if you're into that, I'll try and get maybe something. Maybe I'll read ahead the next chapter and see what I can sum up in like a small presentation for just 2 chapters there. If I can do that, maybe that would be more engaging. Because I am trying to like grow this a little bit. I want to try and do it as organically as possible. I don't want to buy any bots. I don't want to buy people to watch my streams. That's boring. That is not any of these values that Benjamin Franklin would have advocated for there. But if you've never read this autobiography, it's pretty interesting. Another thing I really liked is how he mentions how he first got to Philadelphia, and when he first saw his would-be wife later, many years, he came in there and bought with Bostonian money as much food as he could, which apparently was 3 giant rolls that he tucked under one arm, another arm, and had in his hand. So he was like 3 giant rolls. Imagine Benjamin Franklin just going down the street, 3 giant rolls. Crazy dude, crazy. Eventually, he fed like a woman that he was on the ship with, and gave her one of the rolls, But I can see why he would put that in there, because that'd be hard to forget as a thing. So, all right. So with this, guys, thank you again for tuning in, and with that, I'm gonna close you out with some Revolutionary War music. So take care. Semper Sursum. Excelsior. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. And thank you, 2/3 of us, for subscribing. I really appreciate that. Thank you again.